Okay, today we're going to go over getting started making candles. A lot of people, they don't want to make their own candles or they want to do a craft. Candles are actually an easy craft to do. I love candles. I don't know of anybody who doesn't love candles, but I'm going to go through the basics with you so that you can make candles at home if you choose to. You don't really need a lot of supplies. I'm going to go over what you need to get started. The first thing that you really truly need to do is do some homework before you buy anything. Go on to places like candlescience.com or any candle supply company. I shouldn't say any, but a lot of them, they have information listed on their website as well to help you. The more successful you are at making candles, the more product you're going to buy. They kind of go hand in hand, so they're usually more than willing to help you through the whole process. But it's really not hard. There's a few things that you need. I do buy a lot of stuff from dollar stores, specifically Dollar Tree, Dollar General. I think Dollar Tree owns Family Dollar. I'm not sure. But you can also buy online. A lot of people forget that too. You can buy online if they don't have what you need in the store. You can purchase it and have it delivered and go pick it up, or you can have it shipped right to you. So that's really nice. When you're shipping glass or anything heavy like wax, the shipping cost gets to be a little up there. So if you don't buy a large enough quantity, it really doesn't pay off. And I think that is the big part in why people don't really get started. A lot of your local candle supply shops, though, they do sell it in smaller quantities. I buy, let me show you. This is what I'm going to work with today. My lighting's a little off. This is the Love Spell type I'm going to make, but I get them from Southern Sensations. They're in Flat Rock in Michigan. They're local to me. It only takes me 20 minutes to get there. So I can go and, buy all kinds of stuff and not have to pay for shipping. I buy wax by the 50-pound case. So imagine shipping 50 pounds, what it would cost. They do have a website. They do ship. It's greatcandle.com. I buy a lot of stuff from them. This is fragrance. This one's empty. I need to go again. I also buy, like I said, the soy wax in 50 pounds. They do sell 5 pounds and 10 pounds, which is nice. It looks kind of like this. These are wax crumbles, but the soy wax comes in flakes. I'm not sure if they sell any loaves or anything like that, but I buy it in the flakes. That's kind of what it looks like. I didn't really save any. I kind of, like I said, I need to go to pick up supplies. What I do, I melt mine down in large quantities, but it kind of looks like this, and then when it's left over, I just kind of crumble it up so I can use it for something else later on, instead of saving it as one giant block of whatever. But you can, if you have leftover mixture, you can save it for later in something else, in a jar or whatever. Now, to measure out, everything is done by weight. So you need a scale. If you're just making a couple of candles, like I did in the very beginning, I didn't measure by weight. I measured by volume. And the tricky part is soy wax. I know that 32 fluid ounces weighs 29.5 ounces that's by weight. That's where it actually weighs. So I kind of know what my ratios are. The difference is, and the reason things go by weight is I use a soy blend. Most paraffin soy blend or soy blend hold about 8 to 10% fragrance. And what that means is that's the most fragrance you can put in the wax without overwhelming the wax, because you want the wax to bind with the fragrance, or vice versa, however you want to call it. So for 3 candles that I'm going to make today, I'm going to use a 10% mix, and I'm going to put about 8 ounces in here. I'm going to go to, well, this is, all I had left was 2.5 ounces. And this is one of those fragrances that 2.5 fluid ounces, and I buy these little measuring cup things. I like to use glass when I'm making candles. Like I said, I buy them at the dollar store. coincidentally, I'm going to try not to babble on. Coincidentally, this fragrance by weight is the same as by volume. If you get a thicker consistency in the fragrance, it's going to be more dense. So 2.5 ounces, 2.5 fluid ounces might weigh actually 3 ounces. So there's a little bit of a difference there, and there's a formula. In the beginning, I wouldn't worry too much about it. As long, excuse me, as long as you weigh it out and you're roughly around 10%, you're usually good. Some waxes are different. Like I said, you're going to have to do some homework here. And by all means, if you go to a shop, these guys are, they know about making candles. They'll help you. So you're going to need a fragrance. You're going to need wax. Waxes are different. I use a 464 golden wax. I'm going to change too because I want to make more embeds and more wax melts with different shapes and stuff. So we'll get into that in another video. That's a little bit different. You need a harder wax for that. 464 is pretty unforgiving. It's a softer wax. It's easier to work with. It, in my opinion anyway, gives a good throw. And a hot throw and a cold throw. What people are talking about is when you have a candle. Here's a candle that I made recently. I'm making candles for the Bell collection. I'll put this right here. I could probably go here. And I have little embeds on top. This is the Bell collection. I'm going to do themes. I'm starting with Beauty and the Beast. And her name is Belle. So this is where it all starts. This is a red candle with embeds on the top. Now the only thing that you should be putting in a candle is wax. I do not recommend putting anything in there like flowers or anything like that. You have to take into consideration through this whole process that everything that you're making that is a candle is meant to burn. And if you start adding things in, they become fire hazards. So be careful with that. Which leads you to the container. Now, mason jars, I do a lot of mason jars. People like these, especially at craft shows. I can sell these pretty inexpensively. They don't cost a lot to make. They're actually nice candles. The lids help keep the dust off the candles. These I wrap in cello bags or shrink wrap over the top to keep the dust off. Now, imagine trying to dust that. That's why if you sell to a store or anything like that, they're going to want something covered because they don't want it looking awful. Plus, if you get hundreds of these, and now we're talking about making them for yourself to start with, but if you ever want to do a craft show, make some money to pay for your supplies, things like that, you might want to consider doing that. A local craft show, local farmer's market, things like that. If you get a lot of these in a room at one time, you're overwhelmed with fragrance because the 464 at a 10% ratio has a good cold throw. That means when the candle's not burning, what does it smell like? That's a cold throw. A hot throw is what does a candle smell like when it's burning. One thing I do like, they have at Great Candles, they do have really good fragrances, so you can smell it throughout the house. If you're burning, and depending on, some people like different fragrances. Some people like floral, some people like sweet, which is like your brownies and your cookies and your cakes. Some people like fruity, some people like earthy, some people like spicy, you name it. There's a huge variety of fragrances. You do not have to put a fragrance on your candle. You can make unscented candles if you want, if you just enjoy burning them. You can also get things like citronella, which is a fragrance, and you can make candles for your outdoors or whatever. Instead of paying, $15 for a citronella candle or whatever, you can make it yourself. So just be creative, but safe. Remember that whatever you put in a candle has to burn. Essential oils, or EO, essential oils are not meant to burn. Some essential oils, burning them actually creates a toxic fume. I would not recommend putting anything in there, anything other than a fragrance oil, which is usually abbreviated with FO. I wouldn't recommend anything that isn't meant to go in a candle. These are also, if you look at the label on here, I like the fragrance oils. The labels, it'll tell you if it's for wax. It'll also tell you if it's skin safe. So you're going to have, you've got your wax, you got your fragrances, which is optional. Now we get to the coloring. If you can see, this is very vibrantly colored. I like their colored blocks better than I do the dye drops. I don't seem to get the same color. The other thing you want to remember when you're coloring something, I'm trying not to make this video too long either. If you look, this is white. Anything you mix with it is going to be mixed with white. So whenever you mix white with a color, it kind of dilutes the color. This red right here. Excuse me, dry throat. This red right here is actually this. They do sell the dye blocks. These are really hard, so I believe they're a paraffin. So if you're a true, if you want your candles to be more natural, so that you can say that they burn cleaner or whatever, you don't have to color your candles. You can make just a plain wax unscented candle. You don't have to do all this. But this red, if you can see how dark it is, it almost looks brown, is how I got to this. Because the wax is white, you need a really strong color. This is why I use this and not the drops. So I use color blocks. What I do, I have a little dollar store chopping block. I know you can't see it on camera. And I chop mine up, and when I get ready to make it, so I'm not fumbling around, and I kind of like mark what this is if I'm doing a lot of candles. It depends on what I'm doing. If you're doing these at home, it doesn't really matter. But this is one of those blocks. Those are 1/2 ounce blocks. Half of this, which is a 1/4 ounce, or half of one of those blocks, does a full 32 ounces, or about. I'm going to do, because I only have 2.5 ounces, I'm going to do 25 ounces of soy wax mixed. Give me the 10%. 2.5 plus 25 ounces. So if I go 25 ounces, the 2.5 is 10%. That's going to give me a total of 28 ounces. That's where it becomes tricky. A lot of times what happens is the math can get a little off, so you end up having an extra one. So I have little containers, something to put my overflow in. So you need a heat safe container, which today what I'm going to be using are, like I said, I get these at dollar store. You can also get them at Walmart. You can get them on Amazon if you wanted to. I also buy my candle containers themselves at the Dollar Tree. These are what they look like. These are pretty beefy glass containers. You want to be careful what you put it in. Always remember what you're, ultimately the candle's going to burn, and it's got to be something that's heat safe. Canning jars are heat safe. They're less likely to break. People don't always use safe practices when burning candles. If you let it burn down too low and you let it burn down for a long period of time when there's just a little bit of wax in the bottom, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. So you never want to over burn a candle either. So the next thing that you're going to need, a heat-friendly container, and I say that because it's not listed as being heat-proof or tempered or anything like that. It's just not listed that way. But I know I use a ton of these, and I know that they're okay. You got to remember your candle's going to get hot. The other thing that you need is wicks. Now, again, like wax, there's a variety of them. Even with the wicks, there's a huge variety of them. I buy an all cotton wick. I don't like zinc cores. I think that they give off, I don't know, they just don't burn as clean. These are just as cheap. This is $8 for, I think there's 100 of them. Doesn't say on here. So it's a 6-inch wick. I use these because the majority of the containers that I use are the jars, which at the top it's a 2.5-inch diameter, and then with these the top is a 3-inch diameter. And that is, if you want to know what your I want to show it to you upside down. what your diameter is. Just put a ruler on it. It's 3 inches. Wicks are rated based on that opening on the candle. You can buy these wicks, you know, longer if you wanted to. If you want to, as long as the opening is still 2.5 to 3 inches, this is the appropriate wick. And that's why I said you really got to do your homework. They'll help you too. If you go there and you buy something, and you ask them what wick is best suited for this container, they'll tell you. So you've got your container, you've got your wax, you've got your fragrance. Now you need containers. I also pick up spoons, Dollar Tree. Like I said, I cut up my colorant. Colorant's optional, fragrance is optional. Then I get a stick. You can use a popsicle stick. This is a cuticle pusher. And what I do, before I get started, I want to show you something else too. On the bottom of these, I put a warning label. And I do that because you need that label to protect yourself. If you're going to sell these, even if you give them to friends, I put a label on it. I make a habit of putting that label on, that warning habit. That way, I've told you to not leave your candle unattended and use caution, etc., etc., etc. You're covered. I got dry in here. I get little stickers, and I'll put links in the description too where you can get all this stuff. I just buy, there's a roll of 500. I just peel them off. I need to put my camera up a little bit more so you can see. I just peel it off. And then sometimes these labels come off, sometimes they don't. I think it's that big of a deal. And then I make sure I put that warning label on there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then I use a glue gun. You do not have to use a glue gun. You can use glue dots. You can use anything to secure the wick in place while the wax is cooling. You're also going to need, you're going to need, well, I'm going to do this while I'm talking, a candy thermometer, because what you're going to do is you're going to heat the wax up, and you're going to do that in a double boiler. You can also take those wax flakes, like what I showed you. You can put them in here, and you can microwave in increments of like 30 seconds to a minute or something. Don't overdo it. You don't want your glass to explode. You don't want to burn your wax. Mine has fragrance in it, so if I reheat that and reuse it for whatever reason, you don't want to burn off the fragrances. So what you're going to do is you're just going to put a dot, and it doesn't take much, and you're going to put it in. Try to work quickly so you can see what I'm doing. And I use this just to push it down there, and then I let it cool. It doesn't have to be perfect. You want it to be as centered as possible. It has to be centered enough to burn correctly. If your wick burns too close to the edge of your glass is going to break. You know what happens to glass when it gets hot? It breaks. What happens to glass when it's hot and cools quickly, or it's cold and gets heated up quickly? It cracks. Cracks or explodes, and you certainly don't want that. So you want to make sure that your wicks are as close to centered as you possibly can. If you put your sticker on, it also helps. That's what I use, just a cheap dollar store glue. Like I said, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money. You're also going to need something to center your wick with and hold it in place while your wax is cooling. So I use clothespins. So what I'm going to do, and because the fragrance oils have a tendency to irritate my skin, especially if you're doing a lot, you know, they're skin safe, but that's, you know, if you're using a bath bomb, using it in a bath bomb or soap or anything like that, you're not going to put candle wax on you, hopefully. But if you're working with it, as I do a lot, it has a tendency to dry out my skin really bad, especially if you're doing large quantities. So imagine working and making candles like all day long. Your hands are going to get really irritated by the end of the day. Even washing. You should frequently wash your hands to get that residue off anyway. So what I'm going to do is, oh, I almost forgot, you need to get some of the wax off. I've already checked. Now I don't heat my wax up in the microwave anymore. I used to, but now I have a slow cooker so I can turn it on low and melt my wax. But you're also going to need candy thermometer, dollar store. Works perfect. I check. I heat my wax up to 170 to 175 degrees. No more. Once you start, paraffin wax might be a little different. I use soy wax most of the time. I think paraffin wax is, the temperature is a little bit hotter. But 464, the melting point is really relatively low. It's like between 112 and 120 or something like that. I don't have all the statistics. And like I said, this is just for a demonstration. This is not meant to be, you know, a classroom. You're not going to get certified or anything. This is just general information. I melt mine in a slow cooker, and I don't go past 185 degrees because then you start to scorch the wax and it becomes a problem. So what I do is I'm going to dip into my slow cooker, and I know you can't see me. I don't want to do hot wax. I'm going to have to, when I do these, I don't have the room, but I'm going to have to move my camera so you can see everything. So I'm going to do 25 ounces. And one thing that I do like on these measuring containers too is that you can measure right on the glass side. Everything does, like I said, go by weight. You're going to want to, I didn't mention this before because I get a little sloppy sometimes, is you need something to protect your surface. This is freezer paper. I also go, if you notice, there's a tablecloth under here. I buy cheap tablecloths because I go through a lot of them. Candle dye specifically is a very strong dye, and because it's not truly meant to go on your skin, it stains everything. So even when you're trying to be as careful as possible, you may get some splashes and things like that. So protect your clothes, wear an apron. You don't really need goggles or anything. If you're being, you know, that crazy, I don't know, that you need to slow down, I guess. So I'm going to measure out 25.5 ounces. This is just above the 24 ounce mark when you're looking at these. Now this is hot. This is, should be about 170 degrees. At this point, what I like to do is add my colorant. And that's because it takes a little bit. Yeah, this is fine. Now you've got time to work. Don't panic. It's not something that cools off really fast. I'm going to put in some chips. And like I said, 32 ounces holds a half of those blocks. These blocks are a half an ounce a piece. So if you cut one in half, that's a quarter ounce. A quarter ounce is plenty for a 32 ounce container. So I'm only going to use half of this. Like I said, you know, plopping and stuff like that. And it's not exact. A lot of times I cut these up as I need it, but I've been making a lot of candles lately. So I put those in there and I let it melt. Now before I add, I let this melt before I add my fragrance, and that's why I put it in this container for at 170 degrees for a minute and let it melt. If you're doing larger quantities and you put fragrance, my fragrance is at room temperature, and I want to melt these blocks. I've had issues in the past where if I put the fragrance in, it depends on the colorant too. It doesn't melt all the way and it slows it down because it changes the temperature. Especially if you're putting large amounts of fragrance in here. I'm not really doing a whole lot. I'm only going to do a couple of candles here. But I want to make sure that these chips are completely dissolved. I don't want a chunk of it. So I'm just going to stir. This reminds me a lot of making Jell-O. Where you dissolve the Jell-O in here. Anyway. we're going to stir, and I like to the plastic white spoons from the Dollar Tree because I can see what color. Can you see that? Against the white spoon, that's about what color my candle's going to be. The other part of this too is some of the colors, and it's testing. You need to do a lot of testing. You need to make sure before you sell, if you want to do like craft fairs, things like that, make sure that what you're making is appropriate and to your satisfaction. You don't want to use undersized wicks. If the wick is too small, it won't burn correctly. If you put too much fragrance in it, it won't burn correctly. There's things like that, and there's a reason why you do everything by weight. If I were to, sometimes putting too much fragrance in doesn't make the scent any better. It's just more fragrance. That's all it is. It doesn't really change that. If you don't put enough fragrance in it, you're not going to get the full effect of the either a cold throw when the candle's just sitting there cold, or a hot throw when the candle's actually burning. And that's why that is important. Don't just guess. You don't have to be super accurate, but don't guess. Whatever you do, don't guess. Now see how well that dissolved? If I would have added the fragrance in, then that would have taken a little bit longer to dissolve. So what I'm going to do, now I would suggest that you add the fragrance in at this time as the temperature drops. If you add the fragrance when the wax is too cold, it won't bind, which will make your candle look grainy, or it won't burn correctly. You need the wax to actually absorb that fragrance. So this is when I pour in the fragrance. Now I want to make sure that that's all incorporated and it's all blended in there. So I'm going to stir this for a couple of minutes actually to make sure that this bonds. And it's not just, it's not just stirring it in and leaving it. You want to make sure that it bonds thoroughly. I don't think I've had, the only time I've ever had any issues is darker colors like brown or something. They seem to change the thickness of the wax. It kind of, I don't know, it does change it a little bit, maybe because the pigment's so saturated with color, I don't know. So when you're using browns, really heavy blues, you might want to use a little less of the colorant, and you can, by all means, you can combine these. If I wanted to change the yellow, this is sunflower yellow, I believe. Yeah, this is number 8 sunflower yellow. They're different. A couple of different yellows, a couple of different blues. There's sunflower yellow, there's just regular yellow, there's canary yellow, and there are differences in the brightness of the yellow. You can mix your colors. Do some testing though. Sometimes it doesn't always turn out the way you thought. Keep your color rules at the top of your mind too. If you're trying to make, green, yellow, and blue, make green. If you're trying to do different designs, wax is a little more challenging. I'll do some videos on that to show you how you can change things a little bit. You can do, like I said, the only thing you should be putting in your candle is wax. This is from an embed. I'm gonna show you how to do embeds. This is my Bell collection. I'm gonna have to name this candle because the candle I'm making now, I'm gonna actually name it Bell. So I'm gonna have to give these different names, because I have another one, and I'll show you when I do the video on embeds. So after a couple of minutes, this is stirred. Now you're going to want this to rest. And I say that because you don't pour this hot. This is still pretty hot. We're going to use our candy thermometer and see what this actually is. We'll monitor it, and then when it's cool enough, we're looking for about 130 degrees, maybe 140 degrees to pour these. Now, from my experience, if you're doing larger batches, it becomes a little more challenging because somewhere through the pour, it's going to cool off even more, and then as you deplete the wax that's in the container, it cools faster, if that makes any sense. So I like to pour it at smaller batches. I might do multiples of these. I might start, like, now that I've got everything incorporated into the wax, I'll start another one or something, so that as I'm pouring, they cool off at different times. It may not be much, maybe a 10 or 15 minute difference, and so I can do larger batches. So we're going to take a break for a minute. We're going to wait because this has to cool off, and we're still at 150 degrees. So this needs to cool off just a little bit before I pour. If you pour too hot, too cold, those kind of things, you start having other issues. We'll get into those. I'll have to purposefully make some candles to show you how to fix some of them. But for now, we're going to take a break. We're going to let this cool off. I'm going to pour the candles. I'll show you how I'm doing that. And then I'm going to show you the finished candle and what everything looks like. So let's take a break. Okay, we're back. We're going to pour the candles. This is about 130 degrees. It's cooled off quite a bit. It doesn't, in small quantities, it doesn't really take long. I need to get some paper towels. If you spill something, you can soak it up quickly. You just want to be careful. I like to wear long sleeves. Sometimes in the summertime when I'm making candles, it gets kind of warm for long sleeves. But if you've ever spilled hot wax on your arm or anything like that, you'll wear long sleeves, because sometimes it can be like spilling hot cheese, or you ever burn your mouth with hot cheese. Not good, not good. Okay, so these soy wax does soy wax, 100% soy wax. I can't speak for paraffin wax. I don't use a lot of paraffin blends. I'm going to get some though. I might even do that today. This cleans up with hot soapy water, which is a plus. Do not pour wax down your drain. You always want to scrape it out. You do not want this in your drain. Now, there's no real trick to any of this other than I want 3 equal candles. You can do this on top of a scale, or you can just eyeball it. I want to put some ib beds on the top. Like I said, this is for the Bell collection that I'm making, and I'm just going to balance this out. I sell these as 8-ounce candles. Now, as you can see, this is going to cool off before I clean it up. There's a little bit left in there. It's going to pool at the bottom. Let's move this out of the way. See, so I put paper down. I also take and I put, I use clothespins. These are a little short for this. The other thing that you can do, and I would have to dig it out, I guess I should have. I took popsicle sticks and drilled a hole through the middle. I had my son do it actually. But I put the wick through that, and it helps. These are almost too short. You want to make sure you don't want to move these a whole lot. You see that? You want to make sure that your wick stays centered. See how they kind of fold over, because now they're hot. Wicks are coated in wax, so they're going to heat up. It also helps so they can look pretty. So now these are going to take a little bit longer to completely cool and solidify than what I'm going to show you on camera. I got one that's a little crooked here. These are just cheap clothespins I buy at the dollar store. It doesn't have to be perfect. You want to make sure though that this wick is not close to the edge, so that when it burns, the glass is not getting too hot. You want a good pool for the wax as well. Like I said, do your homework, do some research, join some Facebook groups. watch some YouTube videos, just like you're watching here. There's all kinds of people. I've noticed too that there's not a lot with the candles, so I'm going to do some more on the candles. I also make bath bombs and soap and stuff, but I'm going to do a little bit more with candles. I'm not going to do anything fancy, but you know, just for people that like candles. I do make a wide range of candles. I'll have to show you what my stock is. I'm working in a new studio, so I'll have more room and I can show you everything. These are going to cool. These are going to take probably an hour to actually solidify. You're going to leave them just like that. A lot of times I do this and I don't touch them till the next day because I'm going to trim the wick down. Wicks should only be about 1/4 of an inch, no more than 1/4 of an inch high. You want it high enough to where obviously that you can light it, but if this wick were really high, it would burn too hot and your candle wouldn't burn correctly. So I trim them. I don't count on people. I don't do the curly thing. I don't count on people to trim them correctly. A lot of people, they don't know, so they just, that curly thing, they just, you know, unravel it or whatever, or light it, and then you have this big ball of flame, and it turns into, you know, your worst nightmare. So you don't want to do that. So this is it for today. I'll come back. These are going to take a little bit to cool. I'll come back, show you what they look like once they've solidified, and then we're going to trim the wicks, and then I'm going to show you the embeds to how to start making your candles look just a little bit prettier, and then we're going to talk about packaging. So we're going to go through the whole thing. If you're making them just for yourself, you don't have to worry about packaging or anything else, but you do want to keep them covered, keep the dust off. If you take and hit this with a blow dryer or whatever, it might, but a lot of times the heat will melt the embeds or anything that you have on top. You shouldn't be blowing it with that much heat anyway. You're going to get, this is called frosting. This happens with soy wax. This is normal. There's you know, no reason. Don't get all upset if this happens. This happens. If you look at the candles in a candle store or anywhere, you're going to see, this is called frosting. You're going to see what looks like wet spots where the wax is pulled away from the container. It's all normal, so don't worry about it. Let's get some practice in, do some homework, collect the materials that you need, and then give it a try. Try just one candle at a time and see how you like it. And then that's how I started. I just, you know, I got tired of buying candles. They're expensive. And then if you buy the cheap ones, they don't smell like anything. So I started making candles myself, and then friends wanted them. And then, you know, I did craft shows, things like that. And then now I'm doing candles all the time. So I'm going to be back. I'm going to show you what these look like after they're cooled, but this is pretty much it. All we got to do now is cool them down, and then I'll get into packaging and labeling and all that other stuff in other videos. I don't want to make this like horribly long. I babble on enough as it is. So I'll be back for another 30 seconds. Other than that, enjoy, stay safe, do it safely, do your research, do some homework, do some testing, and have some fun. Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, today we're going to make some embeds to decorate our candles with. And when most people think of embeds, they think more of soap. We're going to do it for some candles to give our candles some interest, make them a little prettier. This ties in with my other video. I'm making the Belle collection from inspired by the Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast is copyrighted. You never want to make things that are copyrighted, especially if you're going to sell them. These are embeds that I made from a different mold. I'm going to link those in the description. These little roses came from this mold right here. I like to use silicone molds. You don't have to. You can use other like plastic molds, as long as they're meant for soap, candies, things like that, because what you're putting into it is hot. I prefer to use glass. Silicone is the next best thing. You need to be able to peel these and get these out. Now, I'm going to be making some rose embeds to go on top of my candles. I've got my candles cooling over here. I'm going to pour these, and before I do this, I want to see how much candle wax this mold in particular holds, so that I can plan better. I want to be able to produce these maybe, I don't know, a dozen at a time or something. So I'm kind of testing here along with you guys too. And of course we're having some fun. Now this mold right here has some pretty intricate designs, if you can see. Let me catch the light here. The other thing that I want to do too, you can't really see it here. You know what? I made some more before. I'm going to show you. I've been experimenting. I have them on a tray over here, kind of drying. Now mold, before you demold something, it has to sit and solidify and kind of cure a little bit. Otherwise, it'll fall apart when you do mold it. I don't want to knock anything over. But I've been making some now. I made a dozen of these, and I took them out of one of the molds too soon, and it just pretty much fell apart. So we don't want to do that. But turn this around without spilling anything. The smaller roses right here, if you look, wax has a tendency, I don't know, you can probably see it on the white ones. Wax has a tendency to look really shiny. So what I want to do, and you can do this with other colors, it's really not recommended. You can do it. It's mica doesn't dissolve in wax and bind with wax as well as the colorants that are specifically made for wax, or candle dyes. But you can, and today I'm using Red Strawberry by Stardust Micas, and like I said, I'll always put links in the video so that you know where to find this stuff. I like to buy things especially when I'm testing in smaller containers. A lot of the micas all of the micas that I get are also safe for your skin, for bath bombs, things like that, so that I can kind of cross over. The candle dye that I've put in here, and I've melted down some red for my roses, and they're very, very deep red. That candle dye is not the same. Now you can add mica. A lot of mica settles to the bottom, so you got to keep that in mind because it doesn't really mix and bind with the wax very well. But I'm going to take a paintbrush and some mica. I always put my mica into another container. I don't like dipping into, unless it's a measuring spoon, I don't like dipping into any mica. So I'll put these together. I can reuse this and refill this so I don't contaminate it. It's just a pet peeve. But I'm going to take a little bit of this mica and I'm going to dust these cavities. And I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, I want my rose to look velvety. Now you can also put some glitter in here, a different color, like if you wanted to accent your rose with a white. You just want to make sure that you don't have a clump, because if you have clumps, see how this is, I don't know if you can see, but there's like buildup of the mica. If you build it up, it'll change this rose or whatever design that you have. It won't, it won't mold. There's only so much room, and if you've got powder in the way, regardless of what it is, it's not going to bind at this point. When I pour these in here, this is going to sit on top of my rose, and it's going to give my rose that velvety look to it. These don't have it on here. Those are just shiny roses. But you could take, like I said, I'm in the testing phase. This is for my Belle collection. I do a variety of things and make like a set. You can take after, and you can kind of dust. You can take a pink, a white, you can take a silver, whatever you want, and change the appearance of this rose and give it a little more dimension. And all it takes, a little bit of mica, dusting it. I tried to do this before on one of the candles and give it like a shimmery gold color on the yellow, and it didn't work out so well. The mica must have had some blue in it to give it that pearlescent look. And it turned my wax green, so, test and plan on testing. You can do it in small quantities. Now I know that I want to see how much this holds, and of course that's what it looks like. All I've done is dusted it. I'm going to turn my scale on. And a lot of people like to do this. We're going to weigh how much this weighs empty. So this is 3.15. So I'm going to fill it up, and then I'm going to weigh it again to see how much it actually holds. This is going to set, I like for these to set at least a couple of hours. By the time my candles are cool, these should be cool enough to take out of the mold. They'll be able to cure on top of the candle. Oh, I forgot to show you close up. You gotta, soy wax has to, see how it gives it a little bit of a dimension? Soy wax has to cure a little bit so that it's cooled, it's hardened back up, your fragrance is bonded. So I wouldn't recommend burning your candle like right away. You need to wait, and there's, it's probably a controversy. Anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks. I've heard everything in between. A lot of times by the time I make my candles and then I label them, get them ready for a show and everything else, they've already cured. So I'm making candles for a craft fair 2 to 3 weeks before the craft fair or before the event. You never want to make candles too close to the event. You want to give them time to cure. If you're making them at home, you want them to sit. Shredding. And I'm going to, I have a paper towel because this is getting kind of funky. And I'm just going to pour. I like containers. Just going to fill them up. Hopefully I've got enough here. And this smells, the Love Spell fragrance. Now in bed you don't really have to put a fragrance in them. They're small. They don't, it depends. Whoa. I can get kind of messy, so, especially with embeds. These are a little bit bigger. Now on the smaller embed, the roses, I was kind of leery about putting any powder down in there. And I wasn't really sure how they would come out, but they demolded really well. I was afraid that I would get too much powder in a little pocket. See, now this I can save. And I'm going to weigh this after it's cool. I know that it's 3.15, but you can see the little swirlies on the mica. And I'm going to see how much this weighs once it's cool. Now, if you take these out of the mold too soon, it's going to ruin them. It won't work out. But if you can see, this is very intricate. There's all kinds of like little pockets in there. I was afraid to dust this. I felt that it would be better off to dust them afterwards. I'm going to make some more of these because I think they're cute. These are really hard to... You can also use little droppers. I have a bag of pipettes somewhere. Life of me, cannot find it. And I'm the only one that uses them, so I can't blame it on anyone else. These, don't worry about a little bit of overflow. You can take a knife or something and kind of cut that off before you take it out of the mold. But believe it or not, now you know why I'm pouring on paper towels. That, I'm going to tap it a little bit. Make sure that there's no air in there. Brush is falling apart. There's not usually. I didn't have any issues with it before. There's also a little fork and a knife, so this must be food safe silicone. Doesn't really matter. I have a ton of molds. I'll have to show you my molds. Unlike soap, these little bubbles and stuff. This is the bottom, so it's not a big deal, but I'll show you how to fix that. A lot of times they just, if you watch, I know you probably can't see in the camera, but they go ahead and they pop on their own. Don't spritz this with anything like alcohol or anything like that. It's not, you're not doing soap. You never want to mix water with wax. You'll have an issue if you have water in your wax. That's the other reasons why this I reheated in the microwave on increments of 30 seconds at a time. And I did that because I already had this wax going from when I made the other ones, and I didn't want to put this on a double boiler or anything. I don't like the double boilers because I don't like getting water or condensation of any kind in the wax. It's also another issue that you could run into doing other crafts. You kind of want to keep the water separate. So anyway, that's why I have a slow cooker or roaster. And mine is actually a massage stone heater, but anyway, I'm going to let these cool, and then I'm going to come back when everything is cool. I'm going to finish my other video because I'm kind of doing two at a time. don't be afraid to do embeds. I'm going to show you what I'm doing with it. Like I said, this is the one mold that I just did, the little mold, and I put it on top, and it gives the candle some interest without adding actual flowers to it. Don't add things to your candle unless they're wax. So we'll come back, we'll take a look at what the finished product looks like, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, see you later. Okay, we're back. I'm going to show you what the finished candle looks like. First, I'd like to say my senior dog Roxy's been helping me. I'm sure you've heard her in the background. She seems to want a lot of attention today, and I've got her convinced to lay down and take a nap, and then she's going to start snoring. Anyway, this is what it looks like now that it's solidified. You can see the top. I'm just going to slide the clothespin off here. And then the tops come out pretty decent. I'll show you how to fix them if you have an issue. We'll do another video of how to fix defects in your soy candles. I just take a pair of scissors. I'll make sure I'm in camera. And I just reach down and trim it just like that. You can buy wax trimmers. I've never bothered. It works just as well with scissors. So that's about the right height. Now the embeds have also set up for a long time, a couple hours, and I'm going to gently just peel this out, and you'll see I'm going to push down on the bottom. I'm going to let them sit for a little bit longer because they do feel still soft. But see how that waxy shiny now because of the mica looks a little more velvety. That's the look that I'm looking for. Now this is my bell candle for my Beauty and the Beast collection, or my bell collection inspired by the Beauty and the Beast. And I'm just going to put that on the candle, and I'm going to just kind of seat it down in there. Now this is still soft enough to where that'll bond. If not, I can go back and just put a little bit of wax. It's still pretty soft, so I'm going to leave these in the mold. So it should stick. And then that's it. I'm going to package it. Try not to get color it over everything. Let me show you a close-up. This is Belle, and it's as simple as that. It's a simple elegance from Beauty and the Beast. And this is done in Love Spell type fragrance. And they're beautiful. Anything you can relate to something else to, where people can relate to it, will sell really well. Again, thanks for watching. My dog thanks you. She had a good time as well. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.